And sometimes I realized, maybe you should better run because this is probably not so safe what you're doing there. Yeah? A warm welcome to everybody. I'm happy that so many of you made it here to assist to my little talk. As you may already know, that I have a solo exhibition downstairs at the video space. This show is called Morphing Equilibrium. The show is custom-made here for Fotografiska, but it's based on two key artworks that are part of my Cool Earth series. And to give you a little broader insight of my work, my artistic process, especially now referring to my Cool Earth series, I'm happy to introduce you into some works and also into some very cool behind-the-scene footage. So let's start. As you can see, the series started in 2021. Why 2021? Because 2021 we were all in lockdown. We were all sitting at home, and same for me. I was sitting in my studio and I thought, what am I going to do now? And so I started with a new concept, with a new idea, with a new series. And so I developed the concept of the Cool Earth series, which I then started to work on from 2021 on. So this series is all about our planetary future in times of climate change. So the anthropogenic climate change leads to a profound redefinition of the relationship between humans, human beings, and nature. The series addresses several different fields, different topics, such as geoengineering, weather manipulation, terraforming, satellite-based Earth observing, biophilic architecture, new energy resources and sources, new transport systems, as well as urban future designs. All these topics are at the center of the series, and I have chosen a selection of works addressing to these different topics. So we can say that this series spans the arc from a looming dystopian future to a technology-based, hopefully decarbonized, post-fossil world. So for those who have not seen yet the exhibition downstairs, don't miss it after the talk. It is really an absolutely amazing installation, and I recommend really to assist the whole 15 minutes. That's the length of the presentation. You will definitely enjoy it. The presentation there, the exhibition, is based on two visual concepts. There is, let's say, an ice world with footage that's shot in the Arctic, and then there is a volcano world, which is shot, the footage is shot in Iceland during a massive volcano eruption. Talking about volcano eruption, let's start with the first artwork here. This work is entitled Eruption. Volcanoes play a vital role in climate change. First of all, our world looks like it looks because it's shaped by volcanic activity. And this is an ongoing process that the world, the surface of the Earth, is constantly transformed by seismic activities and volcanic activities. We see here an artwork that I have produced in Iceland during a massive eruption. This piece, it's a triptych. It's not one single shot, as you might think. These are several hundred of different photographs that I took during the eruption. So I photographed the eruption site from different viewpoints, from different hills, and then later at the studio, these different images, these different sources are composed together to form this different, kind of fictive landscape, but it's based on real footage. We talk about the topic of real footage, AI, and all these things a little bit later. And I will show you something in that work. There is a British philosopher which once developed the idea, or the so-called Gaia thesis. Gaia thesis means that we should think of the Earth as a human being, as one body. And if we hurt some parts of that body, other parts of the body might be also affected. And this idea that, and also Gaia is the goddess, in Greek mythology, is the goddess of the earth. So this inspired me to modify the work in a way that, I will tell you that now. If you look here, you see a lying female body. You might recognize here a face, a nose, a mouth, a chest, and 2 breasts. Can see it? Yeah, now you see it. It's once I've told that, everybody sees it. So I changed and transformed the mountains in a way according to build in the composition this lying figure. This lying body, which, as you see, is wounded, is hurt. And so that shows you a little bit the way how I work and how I construct reality. As an artist, I'm very much interested in the construction of reality and not in showing simple reality. So let's move forward here a little bit. How do I work? How do I get these pictures? When the volcano erupted, it was in the middle of the lockdown, as I mentioned. We all sat home, we were locked in. But in Germany, it was, you were allowed to travel, but you shouldn't. But I did it. When I saw that the volcano was erupting in Iceland, within 3 days, I managed to get a ticket. I flew to Iceland. I was the only visitor there. I was completely alone. I climbed up the hills to find the eruption site with my backpack and my camera. And then I approached it way too close. It was way too dangerous, but for me it was so fascinating. I was so captured by this incredible experience, and that was the way how it was possible to capture such amazing and really incredible images, photographic images and video images. The video images you see at the exhibition in the basement. So sometimes I was just like paralyzed about the beautiness of this situation. And sometimes I realized, maybe you should better run because this is probably not so safe what you're doing there. Yeah? So I like to be in these situations. This is another volcano shooting that I did in New Zealand. So here I'm even inside the crater. So it's an active volcano crater, which was not active when I was in, but it broke out 2 years later. But I also was very interested to work inside the volcano crater to shoot images for future work. And of course, I had to be also very careful and wear gas masks not to be poisoned. So let's jump into the Arctic world. 2 years ago, I did a 3-week expedition to the Arctic, especially to Svalbard. Who knows where Svalbard is? Nobody, of course. So Svalbard is a very important place, but nobody knows it. So you all know Iceland. It's here. Chinese people like a lot to go to Iceland. I meet a lot of Chinese people when I'm in Iceland. So Iceland is here. We all know about Greenland since the last 2 weeks. So Greenland is here. And Svalbard is up there above Greenland. Yeah? So it's the most northern inhabited place on our planet. This belongs to Norway. So probably Trump did not yet discover this this place, but it belongs to Norway. Let's see what happens with this. So Svalbard, why did I went there? Because the whole Arctic region is massively under damage, under threat, under pressure due to climate change. So the ice is melting dramatically. The glaciers are melting dramatically. This is destabilizing the entire Earth system. It's destabilizing our whole ecologic system, and also our drink water goes away when glaciers melt, and sea level rises. So it's massively important to understand what's happened now in the Arctic is affecting the rest of the world. And the Arctic is heating up 3 to 4 times faster than the rest of the world. So I went there on a 3-week boat expedition, and one night we went out with these little Zodiacs, so these little boats here. So we went out with 2 boats. We drove along in the middle of a snowstorm with minus 20 degrees, midnight sun. We drove along a glacier, and then suddenly the glacier started to fall apart. It broke down. And this was so impressive and at the same time so scary, and of course also dangerous, because massive ice walls fall down. You never know where they fall down. Then they're producing big waves. But on the other hand, it was so overwhelming that I said, okay, let's go close with the boat and take pictures. And that's what I did. So for 3 hours, I was riding along with the boat along the glacier side and taking several pictures. And then later, many of these images are stitched, composed together to create this artwork. And you see that little boat, there's one person, one figure in, which is kind of caught in the situation. There's no way out of that. So the ice is already blocking the exit for the person. And that's a little bit a metaphor that if we continue to behave like we do, and the impacts of climate change are becoming more and more heavy and impactful, then we might reach a point where there's no way back in the transformation, in the change of the Earth system and the climate system. So here you see an installation view from an exhibition we did 3 years ago, where already both of these images are juxtaposed, and you see there comes a little bit the idea from to transfer that into the exhibition concept that we see here now at Fotografiska. So here we get some behind the scene footage, and you see myself standing on that boat riding along the glacier. Then also we stepped, I show first this work and then I show you how I did it. It's called polar amplification. Quickly explained, a white surface reflects a lot of light back into space. A dark surface absorbs the light. What's happening in the Arctic is the sea ice is melting. If the sea ice melts, the white surface goes away and the black ocean surface increases. This absorbs more light and accelerates sea level rise and global warming. So there are ideas now how to counteract this. And the idea is, for example, building artificial sea ice, do a reforestation of sea ice. Yeah? Building artificial parts, elements of sea ice, and then attaching them to the yet existing sea ice. It may sound very strange and totally crazy, but there are a lot of these ideas now which are part of the field what we call geoengineering. And we might need one day all these technologies to avoid the full disaster. So for taking that picture, I did not use prompts or AI. I stepped on the sea ice. We landed there with our boats. I stepped on the sea ice, which of course is not so super safe because you never know if it breaks apart. But it was necessary for me to capture specific pictures, and then I needed a higher perspective to produce that work. So that's our expedition boat, and then I climbed up on the gantry here. So you see me standing above here. So I climbed up on the gantry to have a higher and elevated perspective to take the picture for that artwork. So you can see there are some efforts behind to create the final photographic image. This is another work, Frozen Flow, which is also shot in Iceland. And here you see a juxtaposition between an image that I shot inside a glacier. So I went down inside a glacier and I found a cave. So I entered this cave, I photographed the ice wall in a melting process. So it's already in the process of transformation and melting. And on the bottom you see a little lake, and that's photographed from the outside. That is the lake that is already built by the meltwater from the glacier. So this work also is currently on view in Shanghai at my gallery here. If you want to see, this one I highly recommend. It's a fantastic and beautiful exhibition also for Bank. I'm collaborating since many years with their wonderful gallery. So if I have a chance, go there and see the exhibition there. It's called New Earth. So how do I find these caves? I have to cross a glacier. Yeah? So that's what I do. I'm with my backpack and my crampons on, and then of course with a team and mountain guides, because it's really dangerous to go over glaciers and not fall into crevasses. So we were just walking and searching and looking out for finding these caves. Yeah? And here I'm inside the cave. There you see me working inside this ice cave, inside the glacier. That's also something that you never know how stable this is. It might collapse every moment. So then last year I made, no, we are already in 26, it was 24. So a year and a half ago, I made an extensive expedition to Greenland. So way before it was on the political map, because it's already on the map for scientists, because Greenland is so important regarding sea level rise and climate change. The ice sheet, the Greenlandic ice sheet, is 1.7 million square kilometers big. And it's melting accelerated. Why? I explain you a little bit later. We did a little documentary on that expedition. I went with a science team. The science team, or I have to explain that before that you better understand it. The Greenland ice sheet, there is a massively growing population of algae. Algae are little small organisms which are now expanding on the surface of the ice sheet, and they are turning the ice sheet from white into gray. And that again is that effect that it absorbs too much light and the ice sheet is melting away. And scientists are not aware yet why this is happening and how do they cope with this problem in future simulations of climate models. So that's why I sent a team there to collect the algae on the ice sheet and to study them later in the laboratory to find out what's going on there. And I was part of that science team. So now let's see one work that is a result of this expedition. This artwork is entitled Arctic Shield. It's a large triptych, and it refers to the fast melting ice sheet and the glaciers in Greenland. And one reason also why these melt so fast is because the ocean gets too warm. Yeah. Believe it or not, I was in July in Greenland, and in certain cities on the coast, we had for several days 30 degrees plus Celsius plus. Yeah. So I couldn't believe it. It was so hot, and that is also warming up the oceans. Yeah. And the ocean water, if the warm ocean water comes to the glaciers and to the ice walls, then it melts underwater. And that is a big problem. So scientists are discussing an idea, why not put a wall or a curtain, a shield in the ocean in front of the glaciers to prevent the warm water touching the ice walls. Yeah? That is technically totally crazy, and it's not feasible, but just the fact that scientists are now discussing these ideas, doing studies on these topics, shows clearly that the situation is already desperate, and we are trying to find solutions. And the artwork, you see that white stripe here on the bottom on the sea, that is then something that I inserted, and this is the metaphor, or let's say the symbol, the visualization for putting a wall or a curtain in the sea, or something that blocks the warm water for approaching the ice walls. Yeah, and but it also affects all the animal life, of course, the warming water, as well as these polar engineering activities. Yeah, so that's the reason why there is a whale. So if we block the access suddenly for the animals, what does that mean? So there's a lot of questions involved in these activities. So another artwork I showed you, or explained you already, that the problem are these ice algae. And you saw in the documentary movie when the scientists were there collecting these samples on the ice sheet. And I made an artwork which is based on photographs that I took with, in this artwork, with a drone. So we flew with a drone in a grid over a specific part of the ice sheet. So several hundred pictures that the drone took are stitched together to form the background here, the surface. So that's the Greenlandic ice sheet seen from above. And then these structures, the green large spheres that you see, these are electron microscope images from the organisms that were collected there. So these little one-cell organisms are having a massive effect on the global climate. It's crazy. And the violet parts are clusters with a regular microscope, clusters of these organisms. So I combined, and also there are parts inside the picture that I took directly on the surface. So we have several layers of visual perception, camera perception also, including looking with a massive electron microscope into the cell structure. And all these visual layers are combined in one image. Here we have an installation view of that artwork. It's called, by the way, that's a detail, and the artwork is called Deep Purple because that was the name of the research project. Another artwork resulted from that expedition is Arctic streams. So it's a bit the same concept, but here it's based on photographs that I took from the helicopter. So we flew over several, not one grid, so we flew in a large area over the ice sheet, and then I photographed all the melt rivers. So the bluish lines you see here are massive rivers. Sometimes small ones, but sometimes really big rivers. And they are built by the melting process caused by these little organisms, which you also see here in the artwork. I have here also a detail view. And here you can see these are really massive canyons. That are built now on the surface of the Arctic ice shield, and these waters flow into the ocean and add to the rising sea level. So another very interesting artwork is Arctic Vault. Anybody knows this building? Has ever seen this building? Christian, you? No. This is a very important building, but very unknown. The Arctic Vault is also located in Svalbard. And this building hosts over 1 million seeds from the most important crops that we have on the planet. So it's kind of a Noah's Ark. It's a backup for us for global disaster, nuclear disaster or climate disaster. So whenever we risking to lose our crops which produce our food, there's a backup inside this building. But some years ago, the building was flooded. Because when they built that 15 years ago, they thought the temperature will never ever be below minus 18 degrees. And that's the temperature this fridge needs to keep the crops safe. However, it's warming up dramatically, and water, melting water flooded the building. And then it refroze inside and the entry was blocked. So they had to hack it out to open access again. And there you see a little bit what's happening. It's our backup, but the backup is already kind of obsolete. It's already affected by these forces which the backup should protect us, means climate change. And it's, the composition here is also made in a way that I photographed separately the building, that's the entrance to the building, and then I photographed the sea ice and the meltwater, and then these two elements are composed together to give the feeling and the idea that the building is somehow already going into the water or is flooded by rising sea levels. Here's an installation view from a nice exhibition that we did last year in Munich. Also a big space exhibition, and this piece here also was included in that exhibition. So talking about sea level rise. We all know that sea levels are rising, but it's very abstract. Yeah? And the relationship between global warming and sea level rise is also very abstract. So I did this work, I shot the landscape at the Lofoten Islands. That is very high up in Norway. So it's also an archipelago which is threatened by sea level rise. And I photographed there this location, the mountains, and there is a little village. What you see here with the lights is a little village just at the border of the sea. And the mountains you see here are modified. They're modified in a way that they match with the curve of the global sea rise, of the global warming from 1850. Here we are about almost 200 years ago. So then we see the curve stays stable. And then in the 70s, 80s, the curve starts to rise. So we are here now, about 1.2, 1.3 degrees of sea level rise. We are all discussing the 1.5 limit, which we should not cross. That's already unrealistic. It's very likely that we will hit the 2-degree level in the coming, hopefully, decades. Yeah. But if this is 2 degrees global warming, and if we reach 2 degrees, so many tipping points in the Earth systems will be activated that it is not unlikely that by the end of the century, so that means in about 75, 80 years, we will end up here, and up there is 4 degrees global warming. And with 4 degrees global warming, we will have 3 to 6 meters sea level rise. And that means all coastal cities on the planet will be flooded, including Shanghai. So that means people have to go to other places to live. There will be a huge migration more into to the mountain area of the planet. So because all the coastal cities will be not longer habitable. And it might be a dystopian scenario, but unfortunately it's not unlikely. And so the artwork here tries a little bit to picture this the fusion here, the combination between scientific data, graphs, and photographic visuals. And the artwork, of course, is called Rising Seas. This artwork also is on display, and I take this occasion also to send a big thank you to my gallery here and the bank team. They're supporting me for more than 8 years here now, and also paved me a little bit the way into the art world, in the Chinese art world. So a big thank you also to the team of Bank Gallery. And don't miss to see the exhibition there at the gallery. Next thing, we need to find solutions. What can we do? We can't only be desperate. We have to invent. We have to find something that can help us. One thing is absorbing the CO2 from the atmosphere. And an idea is creating artificial plants and artificial leaves. And these could absorb CO2 and release oxygen. And there is a British scientist who already invented such a leaf, totally developed with organic material, and it works, but it's only hand size, so it's a very small prototype, but it works. So in the future we might see this idea scaled and see all these kind of artificial leaves and trees all over in the cities and in the landscape. And I took the design of that artist and I scaled it up to huge sculptures and then placed it in the landscape. And we see the components that are necessary for the process that we all know, which is called photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is the main reason why we are existing as human beings. Without photosynthesis, no human beings and no living organisms. And you see light, water, and CO2, and this in combination can transform CO2 into oxygen. Another thing, that's a brand new work, I have to say, that is not yet released and published. Christian, this is a premiere that I'm showing this here. It is brand new, just finished last week, and this refers to the idea of cloud brightening. What is cloud brightening? That is tested in Australia now. So it means spraying seawater into the clouds to brighten the clouds. And if the clouds are brighter, they reflect more sunlight back into the atmosphere and they cool down the ocean. As you might know, the Great Barrier Reef is almost dead. All the corals are dead because it's too warm. The waters are too warm. So they're testing what could they do to prevent the water from getting warmer and maybe cooling it. And one idea is spraying seawater into the clouds. And this artwork refers to that idea and that topic. Here we see an installation view. That's very interesting. We all know that renewable energies are very important and we need these to replace our fossil-based energy systems. This artwork I made 4 years ago. It's one of the early ones, 4 years ago. And it pictures a prototype, an idea, an engineering idea of having windmills flying up in the sky. Because the windmills, when they fly up, they are scalable in height and they can capture the winds where they are. So the fixed windmills, they only have one height. But this is the future of capturing wind and producing energy. And last week I read in a newspaper that Chinese scientists now built this. Yeah? So you know that. Okay, so that's now already under, let's say, under construction or under research. So it now became a reality. So ideas that we might think today they're totally crazy or unrealistic, in a couple of years they might become reality. Yeah? And Chinese scientists are now experimenting with this new form of capturing wind and producing energy. Interesting. Another interesting technology is producing rain, artificial rain. That is what in Dubai is very much produced. So they are very dry, they have a problem with the groundwater level, and they need water. And what they did, they invented drones, and these drones are flying into the thin clouds in Dubai, and these drones are sending electric impulses to the droplets in the clouds, and then the droplets get heavier. They accumulate and they get heavier, and once they are heavy enough, they fall down, and it's raining. So when you see in the news this massive rainfalls in Dubai in the summer when everything gets flooded, this is artificial rain. Yeah? And most of the people even don't know why it's so heavy raining now. Suddenly it's artificial rain, and that's a very interesting technology that can help us in many parts of the Earth. Here's an installation view of both images, the one from Dubai and the one with the flying windmills, and also the volcanic piece. So a last chapter is biophilic architecture. That is also something that can help us to cool down our cities when it's getting too hot in the summer. What do we do? If we all turn on our air conditions, it's not very helpful at the end because they're consuming energy and producing CO2. So the best blueprint at the moment is Singapore. So Singapore tries to bring back nature, tries to bring back the forest into the city, merge the buildings, let the plants inside the buildings, let them grow inside, outside, and merge architecture with nature to have a more natural habitat and to bring biodiversity back into the city and also cool the city down. And here we see another artwork referring to this. It's a signature building in Singapore from a leading architecture firm which is very focused on this concept. So merging their buildings, their architectural structure with nature. Again, this is several shots that I did on different locations from different angles, and then I merged them together to visualize the idea of biophilic architecture. The same here. The artwork is entitled Plato's Cave. This is a more metaphoric work because, again, it merges a technological structure, an architectural structure with a cave. You might be familiar with the story of Plato's cave, and it's about the idea leaving that cave because that what we see there in that cave is not really the reality. There might be other realities outside. So we should leave this limitation and look into the future, look into the unknown, and maybe go the risk to leave our comfort zone and find new solutions for all these problems that we are facing now. And this work addresses to this idea, leaving the cave, looking into something that today we maybe cannot imagine. Here's an installation view of these works. And now I come to the last point. All this topic of climate change we're discussing. There's one reason for all this, and that's energy. Energy is what is driving our civilization. Since we found oil and realized we can use oil for producing energy, civilization did what we call the what scientists call the great acceleration. Yeah? So you can see in the past 120 years, the curve of the development of our civilization went like this. It's because we have found an energy source, and that was oil. And now we realize oil is doing a huge damage to our environment. So we need to find new resources, new ways of producing energy, because our hunger for energy will exponentially increase. All these new AI systems that we are now starting to develop, to implement, are consuming so much energy that today we even don't know where to get all this energy from. It's endless amount of energy that these AI data centers will need. So there needs to be a solution for that. One solution for entire humanity would be fusion power. What is fusion power? We all know fission power, nuclear power. We split an atom, and from that process we get a lot of energy, but also we get a lot of nuclear waste. Fusion power is the opposite. We accelerate two particles, let's say two atoms, we accelerate them and they collide. And when they collide, they produce, based on this collision process, they produce endless amount of energy. And the resource for this is, where do I have it? Here. The resource is water. Yeah? So what you need for producing energy is 1 glass of water, because water contains hydrogen. And hydrogen is the resource for fusion reactors. So 1 glass of hydrogen could produce enough energy for the need of entire Shanghai for 1 year. Water, seawater. Unfortunately, it does not exist yet, but it's under construction. And the largest prototype of this machine is in France, in southern France. It's called ITER. And this is the largest machine humanity ever built. I think it's even larger than the CERN, the particle collider. So it's a massive machine under construction to find out and test if that works. But if you do some research, in China also there are a lot of fusion power projects under development. So that's a very interesting technology. And I had the privilege to go for 3 days into this what is it? It's a factory. So it is incredible building of that machine. And I was photographing during the construction process and the core of this power plant. So here you see a combination of hundreds of different shots that I made from this machine, from very different angles. And then I stitched and put them together to create this composition. And it's all about complexity, because this machine is so complicated, and we need also for this materials that we even still do not have, so we need to invent them, and the complexity of construction is over every limit you can imagine. But if it one day works, our energy problems will be resolved. So the work is entitled Fusion Power. Here you see an installation view of a very large scale version of that piece that is 6 meters wide. And this artwork is an alteration of the other work. It's Fusion Power 2. And this work is also shown here at our gallery, at Bank Gallery. So also you will have the opportunity to see this artwork in original if you visit the exhibition there. Now that's the last image, then we finish. I will give you this image to think about it, because that is called Post-Human Waves. And it pictures a world in balance, in equilibrium, in peace, but without humans. So that could be one scenario, that our species will be extinct and we will be swiped away from the planet. So other life forms might survive. Technical life forms, robotic life forms, autonomous life forms, AI-driven robotic autonomous life forms which may not need humans anymore. So to avoid this scenario, we have to be a lot aware of what's going on, and we have to be energetic and positive and active in finding new solutions, how we deal with the resources that our planet provides us and the needs that we have as human species. So I say, xie xie. Thank you very much and for your attention. If you would like to know a little bit more about the work that I'm doing, feel free to go to my website or follow on Instagram, and there you will have a lot of more information about my artistic practice. So I hope it was not too long. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope some ideas now are starting in your brain, and I'm very open now to all your questions. Thank you very much. I knew that this question will come up. It's hard to believe that they are real. What is real? What is reality? So that's a question number one. What do you consider for real and reality? And as I said, I'm very much interested in the oscillation of my artworks between reality and simulation. That's the construction of reality. That's what I'm interested in. So these worlds are looking simulated, fictive, but at the same time they look like somehow bound to reality. That is the perception process that I'm interested in. Then, sorry, talking about the rising AI images now. It is a dramatic, accelerating, fast-going process that I still don't have a final answer, how that affects and changes our perception and also the medium of photography. But at the end of the day, I'm a photographer. So that means photography traditionally is lens-based. So you have a lens, you have an optic system, you photograph something. Then 30 years ago, the digital image technologies came up with Photoshop. We started to use these tools to alterate our images, to create new visual worlds, but still based on something that was produced with a lens. So with AI, we are definitely now talking about no lens-based visuals. These are purely generated with software and AI. So on one hand, we need to think about how do we perceive these images, which now are quickly available, which are flooding the world, the internet. And on the other hand, we need to find out what are these images telling us. Why are they produced the way they are produced? So what is the idea and the message behind these images? And then on the other side, we have the artistic practice. When I produce an image with AI, I use prompts. So I write 10 prompts and I get the image. The prompts and AI can only refer to things that are already existing because they trained on image models with images which are already produced. Yeah. So innovation is very difficult with AI because the source material is already there. It's just a recombination. Yeah. As artists, we're more interested, I think I'm more interested in innovation and developing an artwork really from my mental, visual, intellectual practice and experience. And for me, the final artwork is a long journey. And I hope that I have explained that a little bit today. You see that it's really a long way from a spark, which is an idea. Mostly these sparks, in my case, are coming from reading, so from literature. Specific literature, scientific literature, or fictive literature. So when there's a spark, an idea comes up, I try to find a way, how can I visualize this? Where do I have to go to find these? To whom do I have to talk? And on the way during these expeditions, the dialogue with the scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, I'm learning. I have a learning process. And all this input is nurturing the development of the artwork. And once I have all these images, then I start the recombination process in the studio on the computer. And again, it transforms and shapes. So during all this process, I'm inscribing myself as an artist into the work. With prompting and using or creating AI images, I can't do that. I'm out of this process. So as an artist, I'm not part of that image. And that is, everybody has a different approach, but my approach is creating artwork based on these experience, this long journey, putting my body, my physical body into extreme situations. And this long journey and process finally leads to an artistic expression where I have the feeling that as an artist I have inscribed myself into the image, and for me that's important. So as already said, the hands-on approach and the immersive aspect, the performative aspect is a very critical and fundamental process for me to create artwork. So I'm not a pure studio artist. To get my inspirations and ideas and produce, I need to go out to have experiences. And I think in a time where we are all drifting in a parallel digital world, maybe universe, where we all get our information and experiences from a little screen that we all hold all our days in our hands. Like I see in the first row, already 2 people are watching their phones instead looking at me. This is what's happening, yeah? So you are in a parallel world. I'm having here a talk, but you are checking your WeChat. And so that means we are used to that, yeah? So we are all the time, we are floating away in these digital worlds, and we get our experiences from there, information and experience. And that also, I have the feeling that leads to the fact that we're getting more and more afraid of what's surrounding us. Meeting people, go into extreme situations, having experience with extreme nature without any control system or safety or backup systems. You know, we are all used, there's always a safety regulation or a backup or somebody who prevents us for doing crazy things. So we live all in a controlled system that avoids risk and avoids extreme experience or tries to avoid challenges. And I think that's not good for us as human species, because we cannot live all the time in our comfort zone. We need to leave our comfort zone, and we can learn how to cope with these things. And when I'm doing all these things, it's not crazy what I'm doing there, because I'm prepared. Yeah. So also, you might know that also I work on topic of space exploration. I'm also part of this other exhibition here, the Space Journey, and I made an astronaut training. I will fly into space in 27. So I do all these things, but I'm trying to prepare this. I work with expert team, but still there is a level of uncontrollable adventure. Yeah? And this is life. This is energy. And that's what I need to create my artworks. Thank you for listening. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. And I have to say, I really love Shanghai. Whenever I'm back here, have the opportunity to show work or to give a talk, it is an amazing experience for me, and I'm very much in love with this city. Thank you.